Hello and welcome to Strong Start Sundays. I'm your host, Dr. Rachel Edoho-Eket, and I'm really excited that you are here with us tonight. And I would love for you to let us know where you are watching from. Let us know your name, put it in the chat box so we can lift you up. But thank you again for being here tonight. This is going to be a great episode. I'm really excited to highlight one of my best principal friends and mentors, Ed Cosentino. Welcome to the platform tonight.
Thank you, Rachel. It's great to be here. I always like having our conversations together, and I look forward to our time together tonight.
Yes, so let me tell you all a little bit about Ed Cosentino. Ed is the current principal of Ilchester Elementary School in Howard County, Maryland. Our schools are just about 10 minutes from each other, so we're very close there. He also has been in public education for 30 years, and he has been a principal for 15 years, which is absolutely amazing. And he is the 2019 National Distinguished Principal. And he also is the incoming vice president for the National Association of Elementary School Principals. So his career has been absolutely tremendous. You have been an amazing mentor to me in helping me get into the Maryland Association of Elementary School Principals, just getting my feet wet there and then encouraging me to step into leadership there. So I'm so thankful, Ed, for your influence. And you, like me, Ed, we grew up in the county and then came back to serve as both teachers and administrators, though you went to a rival high school of mine.
Wild Lake, go Wild Lake.
Well, we don't have to name it, but yeah. So I want to lift up, before we get into our conversation tonight, I want to lift up our book, Relational Intelligence, the Key Factor to Exceptional School Leadership. Brad Johnson and I are coming up on our 1-year anniversary of this book, and we're so excited to everyone who has purchased a copy, who has read it, and who is impacting your community in a positive way. If you haven't received your copy of this yet, go right on Amazon, look up Relational Intelligence. We wrote the book specifically for school leaders to help us keep the amazing teachers in our buildings, to help keep ourselves in the buildings as leaders, and just to help spread that positive culture throughout the building. So if you haven't picked up your copy of Relational Intelligence, please do so right now. So tonight's episode is all about midsummer leadership reset. And what we want to be thinking about tonight is how can we best prepare for the upcoming school year? So we're going to do some reflecting tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about where we are in terms of Ed and I, in terms of our leadership in buildings. And then we want to hear from you and share some suggestions that might be helpful in your leadership. So Ed, I want to start off this conversation by thinking about the fact that both of us are newer to our buildings. I've been in my building now for 2 years, going into my 3rd year, but you, however, have been in your building for just about a couple of weeks. So tell us about your transition there, Ed.
It's been a great transition. So it's very interesting to be in your 30th year and you're starting over again. And I think as I reflect on where I am right now, I have 30 years of experience in 6 different schools as an administrator, or 5 behind me, but this is my 6th. So I'm bringing a huge toolbox with me to my new school. And it's really interesting because you learn from all the mistakes you've made. And you're not going to be mistake free moving forward. But the things that you can build your building with very focused strategy on how to I have a couple years in my building before I take on a new role with NESP there. So I want to get it right. I have a finite amount of time there. I want to get it right. Things that sometimes take, in my experience, multiple years to build, I'm moving kind of at an accelerated pace. Mm-hmm. And I know that strategically. But I'm just thrilled to be in my new school. I'm thrilled to have an opportunity to try new things, but also implement things that I know have worked over the years.
Yeah, and I love that. I, similarly to you, I had been in my previous school for 9 years and then transitioned to Waterloo 2 years ago. And it has been a great transition in terms of bringing some level of expertise and skills into the building, but also hearing what the needs are in the community and in our staff and students, and trying new things with the staff that we have. So that's been something that's been very positive. And I think that's a great way to establish culture, because like you said, Ed, as new leaders to the building, people are really looking at us. They want to get to know us just as much as we want to get to know them, except we're the newest people in the building. So it's a different level of pressure being the new administrator there. But there's so much potential every time the new leader steps into the building. And so that's a level of responsibility that I get excited about. How can we cultivate the strengths of our staff members who are already in the building? And at the same time, we're hiring new staff members into the building. So it's a special opportunity, I think, for all of us that are newly promoted into our buildings or transferring or transitioning to our buildings. And while I'm here, I see Dr. Sonia Matthews on tonight. Thank you, Dr. Matthews, for coming on. It's so wonderful to see you as always. Thank you for being with us tonight. So, Ed, I also want to know, as you're thinking about hiring candidates, because we know that that's another good thing, what are some things that you're thinking about when you're bringing new people into the building right now?
Well, being a new principal, it's a little bit tough to know the culture of the school because you haven't spent a day in the building when the building is in operation. So some of the things that I've been doing is I've been leaning on the people that have been there. Our pre-K team leader who works 11 months, our 11-month special ed team leader, my principal secretary, my assistant principal's new to the building too. Usually I would lean on him or her for that. And then people that are in the building a little bit more. So I kind of spend time getting to know them, and I ask them kind of about culture questions. How would this go? What should I do with this? And really building in that capacity to help make those shared decisions. And I have a full day of interviews tomorrow, and I have somebody who has been with the building for quite some time, and I'm going to ask that person to, what do you think? How do you think this person will fit in to the culture of Ilchester Elementary School? So, and you know, you hire somebody who you feel will be really good, but then you also want to confirm that with others.
I agree. And I love that you came in from the stance of a listener and a learner. And I think that's something that we need to continue to do as school leaders. Instead of making assumptions about the school, what I heard you say, Ed, is you are taking that perspective of other people and saying, what's your input? You've been here longer than me. Tell me if this person's a fit. I know for me, when we are interviewing, we are always including members of that team or a cohort of people to support that process of hiring, because I want it to be a shared decision. What I say to our staff is ultimately, as principal, it's our final decision who comes into the building, but it's a collaborative process. And so I never want to be one-on-one with a candidate and just placing people into positions, because if it doesn't work out, then it's like, oh, well, you chose this person. And so we want everyone to be a part of that process, so at least they can see if this person is going to be a great fit. Another thing I like to ask candidates is, what can you contribute to our school? What's the strength that you have that makes our school better? And I really like that question, because you're going to ask 100 people and you're going to get 100 different answers. And what you're listening for is, what's the thing that you need at your school that's going to, cause you to hire this person? And one example I have is, one of the teachers said, well, I love to do a running club, and that would be something that I could contribute to. And, at our school, we have a running club every year, and we always have to have a teacher volunteer to do that. And so it's something as simple as, I'm passionate about running and I want to coach. We were like, we could use you at this school on top of the skills that the person had. So, asking how someone else can contribute is a nice way to do that as well. Yeah. And we have some other people joining us tonight. I want to lift up Coach Goodman. It's so wonderful to see you. Thank you for coming on. And I love the insights that you're sharing about, the school culture is not going to rise above that culture of the leadership team. And you're so right about that. I know Dr. Matthews agrees with you there. And thank you for your compliments Dr. Matthews, about our culture building. Ed is definitely the one. I'm learning from everybody in terms of continuing to build culture that's positive in our buildings. And, shared decisions is a way to go. You never want to come into a building and suck up all that energy in the room by making decisions unilaterally. That's just not the right way to lead. So when people feel a part of that process, they're invested there. Ed, did you want to add something else?
Yeah, and one of the first things, so my schedule seems to be pretty tight this summer for some reason or another, just with a little bit of travel. And I spent a full week at my school just trying to build up structures and those type of things kind of behind the scenes, just a lot of work that week. And then we spent time, just like you were at the NAESP conference last week. So that kind of took up a good week, chunk of my week. Mm-hmm. But one thing I did, knowing that I was going to be busy, I sent out a survey. It was the same survey for staff and the community that had very targeted questions about culture of the school. Mm-hmm. What are your experiences with the school? What are experiences that your children have? If you were the new principal, what would you do to make Ilchester a better school if you had that authority and power? And I've gotten an incredible response rate, and it's a really neat opportunity. The Google form that we have actually kind of synthesizes all of the questions and gives you a summary for each question now. So it's a little AI in there, which I thought was pretty cool as well. But I've been reading each question or each answer to each question, and people seem to really like that. And I've been able to either confirm things that I'm already doing and bringing the structure in, or reconsidering how I'm going to approach them based on the responses.
I really love that. And I bet there are lots of principals who want to have a copy of that survey or have some ideas of some of the questions. So definitely reach out to Ed on his LinkedIn or on his social media on Twitter to find out how you can get a copy. Can you give us a couple of the questions that you put on there around the culture? What are some things you said? What are some things that are going well that you like about the school? What are some of the questions?
It was, tell us the honor traditions that, makes Ilchester a very special place. Again, what would you like to change if you could change? What do you absolutely don't want to change of Ilchester? And then just any advice moving forward. And it's been really nice, and it's been eye-opening in a few areas, but it's been a really nice and that was really because I will have opportunities to have like meet and greets and popsicles with the principal and things like that as we get closer to the school year. But I didn't want to have 4 to 6 weeks without any type of input. Or I didn't want to wait until the first day of school. So I wanted to get some feedback. And actually some of the feedback is really good information for our comprehensive needs assessment that goes right into our school improvement plan.
Yes.
So it was really helpful coming in and doing that.
I love that. I think that's so important. And I like that you've already engaged the community, starting with the summer and not waiting until the fall, because things get very busy in the fall. And sometimes when you get a lot of ideas at one time and a very busy time, you're really not able to focus and concentrate on next steps. So I love that you're doing that now in the summer as opposed to waiting. We have another principal who just showed up. Christina, it's wonderful to see you. Thank you so much for coming on tonight. We're excited to learn with you tonight as well. So we have another point we want to share. So we just talked about defining the culture before we start that new year, but I also want to think about how we can build our team before we start building plans. I think as principals, especially us who are type A, and I'm one of them, we like to build those plans. We want to get everything in order, but we can't forget about the people. And so I want to talk with you, Ed, about what are some ways that we can build our team, starting with our assistant principal, our leadership team, our front office team. What are some ways that we can build up to get a strong foundation and anchor for the school year?
Yeah, and one of the things I feel after all my years of doing what I've been doing is I feel like there are things that if we fail to plan, we're going to plan to fail. People have heard that saying for years. But I like to have structures, very clear calendaring structures that allow people to add important dates to the calendar and have a calendar available so people can plan. I like to make sure that we have all of our meeting dates for the whole year, so people know that they're not going to say, "Hey, Dr. Edoho-Eket, we're going to have a meeting tomorrow morning. That's going to be a team." That's not how I operate. I like to be out ahead of things and make sure that things are well structured. But to answer the question there, I think this is one of the components that I shared in my session when I shared with Tara Falasco and Matt Moyer last week when I did a presentation at the NAESP conference. And one piece of building culture that I feel very strongly about is something that our county did 15 years ago was the Gallup Strength Finder. And it's been, we had politics where that kind of took a backseat, but I love the fact that I have the autonomy to use that. And what I'm doing is I've asked for all of my team leaders to take the assessment if they haven't. If they have taken the assessment, log in and give me what their top 5 strengths are. And we're really going to go back to that. Look for what is strong and not wrong, and build on people's strengths. We're going to do the same thing for my AP and I. We've already looked at our strengths, so we've kind of calibrated how we are balancing each other. But then I'm also going to have my principal secretary take the assessment, and I'm going to have the 2 teacher secretaries take it so that they can cultivate what strengths they have and build upon that. And I'm really excited. That's going to be the first thing I do in August with our kickoff instructional team leader meeting is just having fun, discovering each other's strengths, looking at the 4 domains and looking at where we lie and how we can harness everybody's strengths so that we can do really good things together as a team.
I love it. And you know how I feel about strengths-based work. That was something that I was introduced to many, many years ago and really latched onto it because that's my belief is people have to work within their strengths. We have to cultivate student strengths. That was actually the first keynote I ever did in 2016 was going out to Omaha and talking about some of the work that we were doing around strengths-based education for students and for staff. And so I love that you are bringing that back up because that's really something that helps motivate and it helps keep people in a positive space when they know that they're being acknowledged for their strengths and that their strengths are being utilized in a way that is important. Now, we do have a question. So Dr. Matthew wants to know, do you have some sort of a process or protocol that you use with their strengths when you decide?
I have some activities that we're going to be doing. I can share that with you, Dr. Matthews. But I have a whole kind of a lesson plan of different activities that we're going to use for kickoff. But it's not just this one and done. We're going to use that throughout the whole year, every month, every 2 weeks, whenever our team leader meetings will be about how have you harnessed your strengths this time? How have you done that in your team or as a team leader? And how can I help you as a leader and who's somebody who's familiar with a lot of the strengths? And I'm looking forward to that. And another thing that I'm working on, my second piece that I talked about during my presentation last week was the ability of shared decision making. Why is the book talk a little bit and let me think about the book that I have.
Okay. You talking about Gallup Strengths? What about a book from Gallup?
It's hold on,
something different.
Okay. But it was another book. It's Distributive Leadership, and it talks about there it is. I haven't had it. And it is there it is. The multiplier effect.
Yes.
The multiplier effect in schools, harnessing the strength of everybody's in their school. And the multiplier effect is great because and I'm going to share a little bit of this with my team leaders as well, but a lot of us in the principal realm, we might be that type A person that will say, this is the way we're doing it, and or they talk about being an accidental administrator for somebody that is doing the best thing that they can do, thinking that they're helping, but because they're micromanaging, they're kind of
Sure.
like taking the air out of the room. So one of the things that I've learned is how to be strategic with my distributive leadership so that I use the strengths of people, but I also give people the autonomy and the authority to lead their teams and use those strengths. So it's a combination of the Gallup Strength Finder. You look at their individual strengths, but also the multiplier effect in their schools where you're building people's capacity up. And then when they go back to their team, they're multiplying that by building their teammates' capacity as well. So that's kind of been my philosophy of leadership along the way, and been two major influences that I'm going to try to figure out how to use when I start at my new school with my new team.
Yeah, I love that. With the individual strengths kind of coupled with that agency, that's really important for teachers to have, because we talk about this in our book as well. You might have a series of strengths, but if you're not able to flex them, that's very frustrating for people. If you're not able to make decisions for yourself or for your class or for your team, that's hard. So you can see that with the distributive leadership is critically important. So I really love that you lifted that up. And I want to then also talk about APs, right? You have a new AP this year. I have, a new leadership team. I have had a new leadership team the past 2 years. And so it's important that we think about ways that we're working with our leadership partners. And so one of the things that I like to think about is getting all of our calendars, all of our meetings on that calendar to start before the school year so that we can have those prioritized as a leadership team together. And we also talk about decision making. We talk about what does that look like if we both disagree behind closed doors, but how can we create that united front with our staff? So those are the conversations that we have as an AP and a principal together before we go out towards our leadership team and beyond. What about you, Ed?
And I have been in schools where you bring up a topic and it's crickets around the table. I've also been in schools where I bring up a topic and everybody has 6 different varying opinions. Which one do you like to have around the table? Do you like to have nobody? Do you want to be the final? Do you want to be the say? I like having 6 different opinions around the table. And everybody talks about their opinions, and then ultimately you walk away. It might not be what you wanted originally, but because all those opinions were brought up, people feel valued, they feel heard, and you might approach something a little bit differently. That was the beauty of my previous school. We all came up with a wide variety of conversations, and we came to a consensus. And I like that kind of conversation. And we'll see what happens at my new school.
Yeah, it is important. We had similar protocols that we used when we were working on our master schedule. It took us about 2 months of conversations individually and together, and then team surveys to hear what the staff wanted. And we really prioritized the big rocks in the beginning and said, from there, where can we have some agreements and where can we have some sort of compromises? And so we came up with a schedule that we think will work for us. Now, what we said is we can always go back to the table again if something doesn't work out, because we have options. However, we followed a process that went, we thought, very well, because we were able to bring perspectives to the table. And people were able, like you said, to hear different perspectives, which sometimes you think you're in a silo. So you think this is most important. And then you hear 3 other people and then you realize, oh, maybe I can prioritize something else. So that's really important process for us to follow. And Ed, I told you this was going to go fast. We have 5 minutes left. So
my goodness.
Yeah, we're going to go into our third and last point, and that is around designing our first month with positive momentum. So what can we do for our staff? What can we do for our students? And what can we do for our families in that first month of school to make sure we're starting off on the positive and a right foot? So Ed, do you have some ideas for ways that we can help with this with our staff, families and our students?
Well, I have tons of things. And one of the things I love about NAESP is you get so many ideas from people all over the country. So I have a very big, robust toolbox of ideas. I also had the opportunity to go to the Virginia Association of Elementary Principal Conference in Virginia Beach at the end of June and early July. And the camaraderie and ideas that I got there were just the weight in gold. I mean, it's incredible. I met a superintendent down there who shared so many great ideas and of recognizing staff. So I'm trying to take those ideas. He was at the conference in NASB in Orlando too. So we sat down, we made the connection in Virginia, and then connected again and had one-on-one time in Orlando. So I have those ideas, and then I have my my tried and true things that I've done at previous schools with recognition. I don't know if you remember when you were a new teacher, that cycle, that graph of the school year of anticipation, excitement,
Yes.
and then
And then the dip.
disillusionment and the
Yes.
dip. So I purposely schedule things along that roller coaster ride of a school year,
That's smart.
knowing when the dip is at the bottom and when people are gasping for air to be kind of subtle there. And put fun things there so people look forward to it, and so that they come to work and then they build each other up, and so those are some of the things, and it's a smaller staff and a smaller school, so my years at Clemens Crossing I was able to do that, and I can kind of bring that back to when now that I'm here at Ilchester with a smaller school. So hopefully it'll be a lot of fun and a lot of new ideas, and
it'll be fun. I've seen you serving your tomato soup and grilled cheese. I've seen you doing your pancakes. I've seen,
grilled cheese and tomato soup is highly recommended. You get the real cheese, you get the real tomato soup. You make it on it right then and there, and that's kind of my Christmas gift, my winter gift to everybody.
Yes.
Is making that, and they all both of my schools that I've done that in, they are they love that. That's kind of my little signature.
Yes, I love that. And this year our school did something new. We asked the community to donate baked goods, different cakes, pies, gluten-free treats for our staff. And what was really special about that during the winter holidays was the students were coming in and they would say, I helped bake those coconut cookies. And it actually ended up being an experience for both the families and the staff. And so it was a beautiful way to bring some community together with some sweet treats. So I love the idea of you timing those dips for our staff. And we also like to do that positive first contact home with the family within that first month of school, so that all the families get a positive contact from their homeroom teachers or from their related arts staff or from the school administration. And then we also will like to do a lot of connecting activities with staff to start the year, because we hire a lot of new people and you have to give time for the adults to integrate with each other and get to know each other and connect before we give that opportunity to our wonderful students to have those belonging-based activities in the beginning of the school year that will continue kind of as we go. So I really want to say thank you, Ed, for coming on tonight. I think we've had a wonderful conversation. I just want to review a couple of things that we talked about before we close. The first thing we talked about was defining our culture before the school year begins and thinking about ways that we can be intentional with how we're structuring our summertime in preparation for a wonderful school year ahead. And then we talked about building teams before we build plans, right? We have to have our people on board and their strengths and their skills before we start planning out each and every step of the year. And then finally, we talked about designing that first month with positive momentum. And what are some things that we can do to help when our teachers will hit some of those dips throughout the school year and to support. So let's hear from some people who are watching tonight. Coach Goodman, yes, that's so true. You know, when we know our strengths of our staff, we can do so much. Dr. Matthews talking about some great surveys and definitely ways to get that engagement level up pretty high before we start the school year. You're so very welcome, Dr. Matthew, and thank you for coming on today and for all your kindness. And Coach Goodman has a great point here. A little comfort food always goes a long way. That is the truth. We all love a good snack. That is so true. And so I want to thank you again for the gift of your time tonight. You've spent 30 minutes with us on a Sunday, heading into a great week ahead. I want to remind you to pick up a copy of Relational Intelligence, the Key Factor to Exceptional School Leadership. Dr. Johnson will be on with us next week. We'll be celebrating our first year of Relational Intelligence. It's our book anniversary, so we're really excited. And we have some new strategies that we want to share with you so that we can continue to have that relational intelligence that we need in our schools today. So we look forward to seeing you next Sunday on the 26th of July. And thank you again, Ed, for spending this wonderful time with us. We really appreciate you. And thank you, everyone, for coming on. Have a wonderful week ahead. Bye.